everybody. Welcome to AskALLi's Self-Publishing Advice Podcast, Beginner Salon. I'm your host, Jyotsna Ramachandran, and with me we have our co-host, Tim Lewis. Hi, Tim.
Hi. How are you today?
Yeah, doing
I've
great.
been okay. I'm in the end processes of panic writing a book, so it's quite nice to have a little bit of time to do this instead.
Yeah, that's cool. Awesome. So today I was thinking that let's talk about the option of crowdfunding, because that could be something that a lot of first-time authors could benefit from, and even published authors who are writing their second or third book. So what is your take on crowdfunding, Tim?
Well, I can see the attractions of it, but there are. It's one of those things where people who are advocates of crowdfunding will say that it's the best thing since basically sliced bread, and this is the way you should do all books. And there are real advantages to doing crowdfunding, but I think some of the disadvantages people don't necessarily consider. So I suppose we should probably start, as this is the beginner's show, by actually describing what crowdfunding is. So I can do that if you like, or do you want to
please go ahead.
explain?
Yeah.
Okay, so in the simplest case, it's literally in the word crowdfunding. So you've got crowd and you've got funding. So what you would do is you would put up like a web page on usually some sort of crowdfunding site, and then you ask people for donations or contributions towards funding your book or other project. And depending on how much they give to you for the project, you promise particular rewards. It depends on the scheme. I mean, there are some charitable sites for things, but for a book, you are kind of expected. So the simplest thing would be a copy of your book. But for some people, it may be, if they're a big speaker, they may have packages where they give away 20 books, and they give away they'll speak at somebody's conference for like $500 or something along those lines. Mm-hmm. So the idea of crowdfunding a project is that before you write a word and before you do any other thing, you create one of these crowdfunding projects and say, I want to write a book about alpine skiing or something like that. And then you've got your rewards that you set up, and you usually have a video explaining the project you want to do. And then people can go, and then you basically got a month or so, or 2 months. I'm not entirely sure how long people usually run these campaigns for. I think it's kind of a setting on the sites. And depending on the site, you can either get up to the amount that you asked for, and then the project will be funded or not funded. Or for some sites, like Indiegogo, you will get the money that's pledged, even if it's less than what you were necessarily asking for. Right. So it's kind of a way of de-risking a book project, in as much as before you even start spending money on the project, you've got basically this money available to fund your book. So that's really what a crowdfunding project is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of authors, they know the advantage of self-publishing, but what stops them from going ahead and publishing the book is the $1,000 or $2,000 that they need to invest in the project. So if they are able to raise that money from people who are willing to support the book, then I think it's a win-win, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, the good thing about crowdfunding is that if you create a crowdfunding project, that's probably going to be less work than writing a book and then discovering that nobody wants to buy the book.
Yeah, it's a great way to test the concept.
Yes, I mean, that is a fantastic way of doing it. I would say the drawbacks of crowdfunding are that you are having to do all your marketing effort right at the beginning. And if nobody knows who you are, unless your project is really, really, really good, you're not going to get funded. And that can potentially put you off a good idea for a book, because the people who you weren't able to get the people who would have bought the book if it had been on Amazon to your crowdfunding site, because they're not the same people who do crowdfunding. So it's obviously a better option for people who've already got an existing following. So if you've got a blog with 30,000 people each week following your blog, then crowdfunding kind of makes more sense in a way, because you can just get them to do that. But that's so it's I mean, it's good, and it de-risks everything. for the author.
Yeah. The good
But
thing
on the
is
other,
one doesn't really have to invest much in putting that up, right?
no,
So there
no,
is absolutely no risk. So I would say that people can test it. And as you rightly mentioned, Tim, there are, I have seen cases where the campaign has been super successful and the author has raised $50,000. And I have seen
yeah,
people who've not even got $5. So
I know.
yeah, so what you said about having a following is pretty true, because if the author already has a blog or some kind of a service and they've been already gathering a huge following online who are willing to do anything it takes to support the author,
Yeah,
then it's really it makes sense to make use of that resource, because those are the people who will not just spend those $2 on Amazon but are willing to buy something at a higher value, like a set of 10 books for $50, or the books plus your one-on-one coaching for $500. So they're
yeah.
willing to expend that extra money and get the value from the author. So I think people who have a great following already should definitely use this as an opportunity to serve their audience more and also raise more money. But on the other hand,
Yeah.
there are people who are new and nobody knows them yet. However, if they use the campaign well and market the campaign everywhere, it can still do well. And the problem happens when people assume that they just put the book on the website, any crowdfunding website, and people should automatically find the book and fund. That's, I think, too much to ask, and that doesn't usually work, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, there is a downside which people don't appreciate about crowdfunding, in as much as if you've got your existing following, so you've basically got your fan club, and they all they all bundle in and buy into the crowdfunding campaign. Then when your book is available on Amazon, they're not going to be buying the book there. So that is another issue to think. So when I've been suggesting crowdfunding to people, I think, as you say, actually having like options available where people give like $100 or $500, and you're giving away coaching, or you're giving so you're not actually getting everybody who would have bought your book to buy the book as part of the crowdfunding campaign, because you want then people to buy the book when it's on Amazon as well, so you can chart and you can get the Amazon success, because otherwise you're basically having a crowdfunded book project which may be massively successful, but that's covering the costs of your book, unless you could save costs here and there maybe, but so that's something else to consider in terms of a crowdfunding project. And you're right, if people really don't dedicate the time to either build up an audience to bring to a crowdfunding project, or they don't have something that's just so amazing an idea that people on that particular crowdfunding project are going to buy it, then it's a waste of time basically to do it.
That's right. So can you talk about some of the websites that are really good for crowdfunding? A few of them that I have come across. There are some generic websites where you can raise funds for any product, like Kickstarter or Indiegogo, and there are specific book-related crowdfunding sites like Publishizer. So have you tried any of them, Tim?
No, I've not tried it. I have known people who've done Kickstarter projects. I've known people who've done, I think it's Publishizer. I think there might be a few sites for doing book-specific ones.
Right.
Now, I know there is a difference between Indiegogo and Kickstarter. They're general crowdfunding projects. So you'll see people who are like trying to do a flightless, sort of a drone or something, or some video game or something like that. Kickstarter is the most famous of the crowdfunding platforms. And that has a very strict, if you don't earn enough money to say the amount of money you were going to pay, then if you get to the end of your project and you ask for $50,000 and you get $49,000, you won't get the money. Everybody gets their money refunded. Right. Well, Indiegogo, from my understanding, this may have changed.
Yeah.
In that situation, you get the $49,000 anyway. So you could say, well, maybe you should go for Indiegogo rather than Kickstarter. And I think the Publishizer and a lot of the book-related crowdfunding things are the same as Indiegogo. I'm not entirely sure about that.
That's right. I've tried Publishizer a couple of years back for my husband's book, and we couldn't raise the full amount. but they gave whatever money was raised through them. And I think they
Yeah.
take a small percentage, some 5% or 10% as their
Yeah.
commission, which is, I think, quite fair. But right now, I'm one of the registered partners with Publishizer. So what they do
Yeah.
is they ask a lot of publishing houses and self-publishing services like my company to be on their board. So we get to work with the authors who are running campaigns there. So the trend I see over there, because I get to talk to a lot of authors through Publishizer who are who are doing their campaign, and most of them come to that website hoping that one of the big five publisher will find them and publish their book. So that is the bigger aspiration for a lot of authors, rather than just raising the money. So what they typically do is, what Publishizer would do is, if your book hits a certain number of pre-orders, like 100 or something, it would showcase your book to the bigger publishing houses, and then they can probably offer a contract, or they can check out the outline of the book and see. But yeah, that is something that many authors think is one of the advantages. But other people most books don't reach that unless the book's author has a huge following. They don't reach that number of downloads, pre-orders. So they just settle for whatever they receive, and then they take the money to fund the book and self-publish it themselves. So that's the general trend I've seen inside publishers.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, there are lots of good reasons to do a crowdfunding book, especially if the concept in itself is attractive. Right. I mean, have you, in your experiences with the authors, Publishizer, have you found that non-fiction or fiction does better in these crowdfunding projects?
It totally depends on how well the author is using the platform to market themselves. So it totally depends. I have seen a lot of non-fiction books do well, and I think the success rate is the same. It all depends on how well they set up that page. So I see authors who just mention the name of the book and 2 lines about the book, and even their own mom will not fund that campaign. But I see a lot of other authors who invest a lot of time in first getting cover design, because that's the face of the book, and they put the nicely designed cover there. So they've not yet invested money in editing, or they wouldn't have even finished writing the book, but at least they invest in the cover. And you have an option of putting out a nice video. So they shoot a good video either at home, or they create an animated video which describes the book. So that's like a 1 minute or a 2 minute video that they upload. And then they write exactly who the book is for, how is it going to benefit them. This is for a nonfiction. So, and how is this book different from the other books that are out there, and what specific problem is it solving? And so they really go in depth in explaining how this book is the best that can ever happen. So that way, it really gets more attention, and people think that it's a worthwhile project to fund. And as you were mentioning, Tim, it's not just about having the ebook or paperback, but they stack a lot of offers, if you see on the side.
Yeah.
So it starts at $10 and goes up to even $1,000 or $2,000. So it could just be starting with an ebook, and then they package it with the paperback, and then author signed copies will be more expensive. And then you have a starter video, like a 3-video series as another bonus. So that would be priced at, say, $50. Yeah. And then maybe a consultation session or a 1-day coaching program at your company or whatever. It depends on the topic of the book. But people come up with crazy deals, and people who really find value in it end up going and sponsoring the book. So it all depends on how they project the book and how they position it.
Yeah, I mean, I gave some advice to somebody recently who was running a crowdfunding campaign. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was on Publishizer. I think it was on a different platform, but I can't remember which one. But what they were doing was they basically had like escalating numbers of books. So it was kind of like the $100 one was like 100 books. And I was like, well, actually, I'm not sure that that's such a great idea. I think because a lot of people are being, well, what am I going to do with 100 books? Yeah, because then you're asking the person to be reselling the books for you. Right. So something like, as you say, maybe 10 copies of the book or something like that, or 5 copies of the book, and then a free coaching session or something like that, rather than just keep going up. And potentially have the option for just somebody get 1 copy of the book and a coaching session, plus a little bit.
Correct. And if authors do want to sell 100 copies to one person, I see a smarter way of doing this. If the author is also a trainer or a speaker, they can say that, book me as a speaker at your company.
Yeah,
and,
that makes a lot more sense.
I'll just pay me $5,000 and I would be giving away 200 copies of my books to your employees or all the people attending the training.
Yeah,
so
and giving us training session. Yeah,
it looks like they're getting paid for the speaking or training, but the book is just given away as a free bonus. So people perceive that in a better way.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a quite different way of thinking about publishing, but you're quite right in that people should certainly look at crowdfunding as an option. But as I say, I think there are issues potentially with if you're then looking to be successful on Amazon, you may suffer because you've already used up your kind of friends and family and following for the crowdfunding offering. So that's something to be aware of, though. For non-fiction, that's probably less relevant because for a lot of the non-fiction charts, you don't actually need to sell that many books to get into the charts. So that's something to be aware of, I think.
I think the author should have in mind that the people who have supported the crowdfunding campaign may not again go and buy it on Amazon. No. So that set of readers should be marketed differently.
Yeah, I mean, you are cannibalizing a little bit of your audience for the crowdfunding campaign.
Right.
But on the other hand, it's like if you're, I mean, I've seen people do it, and then they have a lot of these platforms have like tweet when you've signed up for this person's thing. You get publicity from having the crowdfunding campaign anyway. So I suppose that kind of helps.
Yeah, I think that publicity is a huge bonus because many authors take 6 months to a year to write the book, but they can start reaping the benefits of becoming an author by just starting the campaign. Because the minute you start the campaign, especially if it's a first-time author, the world will start looking at you as an author. You know, the respect and the opportunities could just start even before you start writing the book. So that's a good advantage. But one thing that I look at it as an advantage, but what I feel is if the author has a lot of problems in terms of procrastinating the project, the minute they go for a crowdfunding campaign, it'll be like a subconscious accountability because they are answerable to all those people. So that might propel them to go ahead and finish the book if they are, lazy like me.
Yeah, well, I've done that. The reason I'm a bit manic at the moment in my thing is that I put a book on pre-order when I hadn't finished it, just to force me to finish the book. So I'm in this desperate thing of scrabbling together, getting all the bits finished just before the pre-order deadline has to go on. So, yes, you're right. It can be. And I suppose for us more procrastinating people, crowdfunding might actually be a better way to go because then rather than procrastinating about a project that you then find out is unsuccessful, you're just going to find out in the crowdfunding stage that it's maybe not a good idea and people aren't really that interested in it. So that's kind of possibly an advantage over going over the pre-order route for beating procrastination. So that's just something to consider, I suppose.
Yeah, and these sites just ask us to keep updating on what's happening to the people who've already supported. So it's not really too much pressure as long as we keep telling them what's happening, because a guy who has funded my book 6 months back wants to know what's happening. So it's just a good practice to probably shoot an email to the entire set of people once every 2 weeks and tell them, hey, my book has just got over, it has just gone to the editor's desk, or some kind of an update so that they know that we are alive. So that
have you really got a book that's still outstanding for your crowdfunding things then?
Okay, can you repeat that, Tim?
Have you really got a book that's outstanding for... have you got any crowdfunded books that you've done that are still waiting to be published then?
That is, they've not completed yet?
Yeah, in your case. I mean, you're saying... Or are you speaking more generally?
No, it happens actually. It's not... I have put one book out there, but we finished it even before the campaign got over. That was my husband's book. Yeah. But the books that we are working on with authors, so what I do is once a month I go inside Publishizer and check out which are the interesting books that I want to publish, and I reach out to those authors. And many of them are really very organized. They've already finished the manuscript and then they go to Publishizer. But there are several authors who want to take 6 months to finish the book, but they just want to test the market and just put it out there and see. So I've seen both kinds of authors. So it totally depends.
Yeah. So how long would you say is reasonable for somebody who has had their book crowdfunded? How long a time period between when the campaign finishes and when they're actually delivered? What's reasonable?
Well, it depends again. See, we should also include things like the printing time of the book and everything after the writing. So it's very important that we share a tentative plan with the people who've funded the book. So after the campaign ends, we can just tell them that, hey, this is where I am right now. So I will take another 2 months to finish writing, and then I need about a couple of more months to edit and format, and then another 15 days to print it, and then I'll ship it to you. So you're anyway there in my, I have your contact information, so I'll keep you posted. So if we give a logical timeline to people, people are willing to wait. So I don't think that should be a problem. Yeah. But usually people run campaigns for about a month, and then we just need to keep informing these people.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that on Twitter and customer service in general. People are happier almost invariably what you do if they're kept informed. So maybe send out an email when you're in the public, when you've got the editing done and when you're doing the formatting, you've got the cover design, just to keep people in the loop, I suppose. It's probably the best idea.
Tim, because you mentioned about pre-order on Amazon, I'm just curious to know what's the main difference between doing a crowdfunding campaign outside Amazon and doing a pre-order campaign inside Amazon?
Well, pre-order is basically just like publishing a book on the KDP ebook platform, but you do it all 3 months or up to 3 months before you're actually going to publish a book. And you don't need to have the final manuscript ready. You need to have something to upload. So at the moment, I've got like a placeholder that's sitting on the Amazon thing, which is why I need to finish this project quickly. So I've actually got the proper thing to finish there. So it's not really that similar to a crowdfunding campaign because you have still got to fund everything yourself and do all the work yourself, but you are making that commitment to the future date as you would with a crowdfunding date. And if I don't make this deadline, then you get basically banned from doing pre-orders for a year. And I'm not sure what happens to your other books, but Amazon really put you in the doghouse. And you can do pre-orders on Apple and Kobo and lots of the other companies as well. In fact, I think all of them do. So I've got the book on Publish Drive for pre-order and loads of platforms as well. So pre-order is really just a way of committing to have the book available at a particular date in the future. It's not quite the same as crowdfunding. I mean, you could, after you finish your crowdfunding campaign, put the book on pre-order so that you are committing to say to your followers, this is when the book's going to be available generally. So
that's a good idea.
That's one. Yeah.
So all the money that you collect during the pre-order phase comes to you after the book is published, right?
Yeah. And my understanding is that on Amazon, you can still be ranked due to pre-order. I'm not selling enough on pre-order at the moment to know this, even as a pre-order book. While on Apple, it basically builds up all of those pre-order sales and they go onto your sales figures when the book's available. So, but yeah, I'm not going to receive the money until it's actually available. So that is one drawback of pre-order. And again, pre-orders can cannibalize your audience in terms of like they order it on pre-order and then they don't order it when it's actually available. Apart from on Apple, as I say, all that chart ranking will go into when it's actually available. So
okay, there's plenty of options for authors to choose from. But I think it's worth exploring this option of crowdfunding and seeing whether it's right for you. It may not be right for everybody, but yeah, there are a few good websites which people can check out the pros and cons and decide which one is right for them. Yeah, so I think thanks you, Tim, for sharing all your experience with regards to crowdfunding. And we'll see you all next month in yet another episode of the Beginner Salon. Until then, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on YouTube to check out all our other episodes.
Or wherever it is.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.